Hello, I'm Angeline Ong, and welcome to Beat the Street, the show that gives you all the tradable news and data ahead of the Wall Street Open. Coming up, Wall Street is in focus as stocks inch higher after interest rate concerns weighed in on the previous session's action. And the Detroit 3 enter the final stretch to reach a deal with unions. Cisco buys Splunk in its biggest ever acquisition in a bid to diversify itself. Good afternoon and warm welcome to you and this new edition of Beat the Street. We're going to be joined by IG Senior Market Analyst Axel Rudolph in just a moment. But first, let's just have a look at how equity markets are looking. Not long now before Wall Street starts trading, and we are seeing an indication, cautious, I might add, higher as we inch towards the open. Much of this not due to enthusiasm of any sort, but perhaps coming back from what we saw in the last session when investors were digesting the Fed leaving the door open to perhaps another hike before the end of the year. Also, lots of things for the market to digest. We've got Activision up because the UK is set to give its new revised takeover deal, Microsoft's takeover deal of Activision, rather the green light. Alibaba also gaining on its logistics arms potential IPO. We're also keeping an eye on the data that is coming up later in the session. This is the flash reading of the S&P Global Manufacturing and Services PMI, many other figures that are expected in the coming week, potentially showing us that perhaps there are cracks forming in the US economy, which has so far been very resilient in the first half. Now, just a check now on Treasury yields, because they did retreat after surging to multi-year highs on Thursday. Also want to check in on growth stocks for you. These are the rate sensitive stocks because we saw them move as well after the Fed. So here's a look at Apple hourly chart there. It is coming back slightly, so a rebound if you like. We've got all sessions. Apple is an all session stock on the IG platform, and as you can see here, it's up 0.3%. Checking on Nvidia as well because it's a similar picture. Nvidia, another all session stock on the platform, and it is currently up 0.5%. It has to be said though that these stocks did not have a good time in the last session when worries over another interest rate hike in 2023 and prospects of a delay in the easing of monetary policy knocked down the three main indices by more than 1% each in the previous session. The action not just on the equity front, on the currencies side of things as well. We had a lot of action there as Japan stuck to its guns, the Bank of Japan keeping its ultra low interest rates, the Bank of England also leaving interest rates unchanged in a surprise move. Well, IG Senior Market Analyst Axel Rudolph has been looking at all the action for us. Axel?
Yes, as you said, Angeline, both of the central banks, both in Japan and the United Kingdom, kept their interest rates unchanged. And it came as a surprise to some market participants with regards to the Bank of England, because only just last week we expected all to see a rate hike, but then inflation came in slightly lower than expected, especially core inflation at 6.2%, which then led to the Bank of England perhaps not, well, it didn't hike its rates after the Fed also decided to pause. But what I thought I'd do today is look at the British pound against the Japanese yen, because that's not really a currency pair we often look at. But you can see here that we've actually come off the August high and have continued to slide lower with regard to the British pound. So the British pound underperforming the Japanese yen, which itself is actually not doing that well. And I'll look at that chart in a minute. But here, what I find interesting is that we have come to this bottom end of this downtrend channel since August and seem to be holding here this Friday afternoon just above the 180.81 low we saw yesterday, probably because earlier today the Bank of Japan didn't hike its rates, stuck to its guns, remains very dovish, and also as inflation in Japan continues to edge lower, to 3.2% year on year so far. And here, from a technical perspective, what those traders who are short this currency pair might want to watch out for is to basically, for us, stay below the 19th of September high, that is to say Tuesday's high at 183.49. As long as we stay below there, we have a series of lower highs and lower lows, meaning that further downside may well be in store, which could then perhaps take us down towards the mid-July lows around the 179.40 area or so. So the trend's your friend. It's pointing down for the British pound against the Japanese yen. And the opposite is the case for the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Here we can see a very clearly defined uptrend. And as the US dollar is on track for its 10th consecutive rise, weekly rise, that is to say, this currency pair is also heading back up again towards yesterday's high at 148.46. Now, what is interesting is that once we take that one out, there isn't really anything to stop us heading towards the 148.85 high seen last October. And above there then is the psychological 150 yen area. But around that area, the Bank of Japan might actually intervene again.
It's agreed to buy cybersecurity firm Splunk for around $28 billion. This is its biggest ever deal and comes at a time when Cisco is trying very hard to diversify and also strengthen its software business and capitalize on the boom on AI. Now, the deal could be the biggest tech transaction of the year. For those of you who are looking at the chart that I've got up here, Cisco Systems is an all sessions stock on the IG platform. Splunk is not, it's a DFB, just showing that to you on the daily sort of view. But Cisco, you can trade all sessions on the IG platform. For those of you who are not familiar with Splunk, it's known for its strengths in the area of data observability, helping companies monitor systems for cyber security risks and, of course, other threats as well, and operates on a subscription sort of model. Sticking with M&A, Microsoft's new Activision deal is set to get the green light from the UK. The CMA says that while the CMA has identified limited residual concerns with the new deal, Microsoft has put forward remedies with the CMA and has provisionally concluded that it should address these issues. Now, if it does go ahead, this recent development was one of the last hurdles or last seen hurdles. It would leave the door open to Microsoft's restructured $69 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard behind Call of Duty. This is a very anticipated deal in the streaming space. And before we go, let's just have a quick look at some of the stocks I've been watching throughout the week for you. Let's check in on the automakers first. General Motors there. This is a daily chart for you. GM is an all sessions stock on the IG platform. Here's the hourly view, also showing you Ford, because Ford is one of the three that is affected by the ongoing strikes. Just to update you there, we do not have a deal yet, and the UAW is expected to announce more auto plant strikes on Friday should we not get a deal in the next few hours. So we'll be watching that closely for you. I also want to show you Chevron too, because this is another all-session stock on the platform. Strikes have ended at Chevron's Australia LNG facilities. This is after unions and Chevron accepted proposals from Australia's industrial umpire. So at least some form of resolution there. So before we go, just having a quick look at the markets for you ahead of the Wall Street Open. Here's the hourly view, as I mentioned earlier, a cautiously higher open expected after Thursday's falls due to concerns over higher interest rates perhaps by the end of this year. Until then, I hope you have a really good weekend. That's it for now in this edition of Beat the Street, the show that follows all the trading action for you ahead of the opening bell. For more trading insight, do follow us on @IGCom and @Angeline Ong on Twitter. This is IGTV.